Uh, yeah, yeah,
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Glenn Asher, the title guy. We are doing an audio cast today with a very special guest. I would like to welcome an incredible woman, someone I look up to, someone I've worked with in the past for many years, and the incomparable CEO of the top real estate team in America, the Eklund Gomes Team. Julia Spillman, who will be joining us shortly, is a Kentucky native, a former banker, and as I call her, the Wizard of Oz, a philanthropist, a leader in the real estate industry, a role model to many women, men, and aspiring CEOs, as well as entrepreneurs. She has a very tough job as a mother to a ton of agents, to some big personalities, to multiple cities around the country as she grows the team, and an incredible team that is. So I'd like to welcome Julia Spillman. Julia, thank you so much for your time. I know time management, although it's one of your biggest strong suits, you're a very busy woman, so I want to extend a thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, Julia Spillman.
Oh, amazing. Thank you, Glenn. And most importantly, thank you for all the support for so many of our Florida agents over the many years that we've been working together.
That's my pleasure. So Julia runs a team of how many people now, Julia? About 75, 80?
No, it's growing. We actually have been on a hiring spree. I feel like while everybody's kind of been pulling back and you're reading about a lot of layoffs and, changes in the market, we've really been doubling down and increasing the sales force, obviously looking for opportunities in each of our markets, and most importantly, trying to pick up more market share. So we just went on a kind of should I say, maybe we're in the middle of a hiring spree now. So we are 95 agents and a little over 100, including our staff. So
Wow.
a lot of people, as you said, a lot of children that I am very, very fortunate to be kind of the mother bird to.
So my history with the team is, way back in the day, just about when they launched Million Dollar Listing. I used to work with Frederick and John, who I've known even longer, from New York City, to help them, do some of their broker open events, and they were a big inspiration to me in introductions that they made when I first came down to Florida. It's going to be 7 years now, and luckily enough, it was a great kickoff. Just like the top team in America for real estate, my team is the top title residential team, closing over 4 billion a couple of years ago, and consistently staying on top of our game, and always trying, as you do, to grow with
Mhm.
technology, with marketing, with PR. So it's an inspiration to work with such a great organization within a great organization. So thank you.
No, thank you.
So let me ask you. So coming from Kentucky, as with a banking background, and when did you get into real estate? How did you become the CEO? And how does the story fold out?
Good question. So I'm getting ready to hit my 12 years at Douglas Elliman in a couple of weeks. So, which is crazy to think, but at the same time, I feel like I kind of grew up there. So I was at Merrill Lynch and HSBC before, which I really loved, incredibly proud of obviously working at both, organizations, but I felt very limited there. We were eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner there, and I think for me, I felt very removed from the customer experience. So, worked on a lot of really, really great deals, but I didn't really get to like emotionally experience them. So, I'm there hearing from some of my top clients about buildings they're buying, refinancing of great projects, JVs they're doing, down to more of consumer level of, they're out and about with their broker or their interior designer. And then I felt like I was getting the black and white appraisals of this, and hearing kind of like the highlight reel. So when my husband and I moved from, or we were engaged at the point when we moved from Florida to New York for his work, I thought to myself, like, if there was ever a time to kind of switch from being a little bit behind the scenes to the real estate sell side, now is the time to try it. So I started 12 years ago at Douglas Elliman, started with the Ariel Cohen team, who's been one of my amazing mentors in the business. I didn't even know how to ride the subway. I had no clue how to do a lease. I couldn't have sold someone something even if I had a live buyer. So I really went from a very prestigious banking job to like, okay, wow, we're literally starting over. Because everybody always says, oh, I've got all these connections and this and that. And I had that as well. I had, access to, some of the biggest players in Wall Street, but even if I had them, I wouldn't have known what to do with them. And I think that's the piece that everybody gets a little dizzy on, is just because you know a lot of the right people doesn't mean that you know what to do. And it doesn't mean that they're going to trust you when you don't have that experience. So I always say, like, starting out in the business, you're actually doing yourself a service if you start really from the ground and work your way up. So like working on rentals, working open houses, it's a very humbling experience the first couple of years of real estate. And, but I always say, like, as much as I have a little bit of PTSD from those days, like, that is what created the workhorse that I am now. And, I'm very thankful to Ariel and his team because I really learned how to hustle. And instead of working on these like really intricate, prestigious deals, I was doing open houses for like $4,000 rentals. And so it really taught me how to do the volume. And then I was able to learn how to like scale the business. And a lot of the skills that I have applied to now leading the number one team in the country came from like the early days of really like learning real estate at its complete core. And I'm always very thankful. So I say to agents, you don't get to skip the line, and most importantly, you don't want to, because that's where really a lot of like the skill sets in this industry to set you apart is created.
Yeah, as a former teacher myself, you learn a lot teaching for presentations in the future, which
Hmm.
obviously I've done a lot of. And then, I attribute a lot to sports and also to, working in
Hmm.
restaurants and learning what to do first and how to categorize things and how to use time management to the best of my ability. And I know that your time management is impeccable because we've worked together before, and it
Hmm.
has to be right. And you have to start and learn from the core
Yeah.
and experience the fails and learn from them and grow. And then over a 12-year period to go from listing rentals and running around New York City trying to make time during traffic in the train. I could only imagine to where you are now is just it's incomparable. Sure, that was a big challenge for you in the beginning. So now what are the challenges and how do you work with
I mean, every day. I mean, one of the things that I really loved about like switching over to this side versus the finance side was every day is a new day. Now, that's not always in the best sense, but like, it's not like, okay, I go into the office at 6:37. Here's the routine. Like every day is pretty much just the wild, wild west. And anybody that knows me, and most importantly, anybody that emails with me knows that I'm a super early bird. So I really kept my banking hours. And I feel like that really has set the tone for being able to be proactive. So I get up in the morning. I am, as you said, I am crazy about time management because for so long I tried to figure out how we add more time into the 24-hour day. I wasn't able to master that. So the only thing I can do is make my days more efficient. But I think where brokers really snag themselves up is they're not proactive enough. Now, being in this business, we all know that like there's only so much you can control. But the things that you can control, especially the time management element of it, you have to be at 110%. So when a bomb does get dropped, because it will get dropped, you actually are in a better place to anticipate it and be able to react versus, and again, everybody's got their sleep schedule and their schedules that work for them. But if you're waking up late in the day, you're already behind the 8 ball. And then at that
Yeah.
point, stuff's coming in and you're a little bit more like your energy, like you're already behind, and then you're trying to catch up with no ability to. So I think, getting up in the morning, or again, if you're a night out, really planning that before you do go to bed. But like for example, anybody that's around me knows when that phone rings, I have an alarm on it. So I go in the morning and I set, if I have calls, like for example, we were touching base on this at 5 o'clock. So at 4:59, that alarm goes off. So I know I am either to be headed to get into a car, or I'm dialing into a Zoom, or I'm dialing into a call. I don't care at what level you are in this business. A client does not wait for you in my book. So people always comment, even at the level that I'm on, about how thorough and on top of things that I am. Because again, you are still at every level creating that trust that like you're in control and you've got this. And I think that why I've been able to lead so many agents, most of which are much more experienced and much more senior than me when they come to work for us. I've been able to lead them into battle successfully is because they know that I'm on top of everything. And, I'm creating that confidence from day one that I've got this and I've got them. And if you can't say that in your day-to-day schedule in life, there's no way you're going to be able to lead clients and individuals and employees down that very, very windy road with you.
Well, I know that from personal experience, and I think that comes with age and maturity in the
Mhm.
business. When you start off, you're running and gunning and working as many hours as you physically can, and doing the best you can to make ends meet and do what you have to do. On the flip side, as you get older, at least for myself, I know I'm up at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm
Yeah,
usually
you and
done.
I email
Yeah.
very, very early.
Because
Yeah.
it's all outbound pretty much, right? It's all getting your things to do list accomplished, getting on top of your
Mhm.
day, setting the pace for the week, the month, the marketing, the outbound stuff, whatever needs to be done while you're not being interrupted and
Mhm.
playing fireman all day.
And I always say one of the things, like, I think is my biggest pet peeve is everybody wants to, like, in our world, like, we're just moving so fast all day long, and anybody that knows me knows grammar. I'm from Kentucky. I take a lot of pride, obviously, in that, but, like, grammar maybe wasn't my subject, but I always say, I really own that. I always say, like, you're gonna get 1 or 2 things from me. You're either gonna get sales or you're gonna get spelling. I am really the best in the world at one of those. The other is like an embarrassment. So I own it very early on to clients, but they know, and I use examples like they will always get replies from me. I'm not going to be the person that sits down at 9, 10, 11 o'clock and sends an essay. Because if you really think about it, and a lot of brokers I think are really bad about this because they want to, everything needs to be proofread, it needs to be this and that. No, no, no. Clients want attention and they want results. And I think why John, Fred, and I in our organization has really been able to move faster than everyone is because it's not always perfect, but it's done immediately and the results are obtained. So, yes, if you went back and you looked at the grammar and the punctuation on the emails, like I am scoring an F minus. But if you go back to attention to the client, the customer service, and most importantly, being proactive with it,
Sure.
we're going to get an A plus, which that is what's ultimately going to lead to the results, not a beautiful written essay, which at the end of the day, most of these clients don't have the attention span, nor are they looking
Yeah.
at it. Because if you
Bullet points.
send that, yeah, you
Bullet
send
points
that
where it
10
says.
hours later, and
Yeah.
again, it might be the most beautiful piece of literature they've ever seen, but they've gone through this emotional roller coaster of, okay, you are in charge of their biggest asset and you're not thinking of them. So I'd rather fire off something that's going to be grammatically a little bit of a mess, them knowing that again, I am thinking about the results for them and their family instead of I'm
Sure.
thinking about the punctuation and how this is going to be delivered, in a more grammatical standpoint.
So one of my developer clients who's been a friend for a really long time, he may be the worst speller in the history of real estate. So for Christmas I sent him a speak and spell. but his ideas are brilliant, and he just, he's short and direct and to the point because the attention span, like you said, is not
It's not there.
it's not there. It's not there. We're all multitasking. It's difficult to manage everything at the same time. So with that being said, how do you're always traveling, you're always, charity events, you're on panels, you're managing huge personalities, interrupted by TV and media and social and digital and developers and all of it. It's like New York City traffic, I'm sure, half the day. How do you manage your personal life? And I know from our friendship that you're challenged with an autoimmune disease. My wife is also challenged with it. Some days I know that getting up is not the easiest thing in the world, and and certainly performing at the level that you need to be at and you demand on yourself it is sometimes challenging and difficult. So how do you deal with that? Because it's tough. It's tough. Even older, mature adults who trying to get to the next level of business, that's the thing that they lack in their life, both.
I'm probably one of the most disciplined individuals that you'll ever meet, but I also think that that wasn't something I was like completely born with. It was a byproduct of I want to do this and I want to do great things, and here are my shortcomings. And like I said, I'm very upfront with those, but I'm a very organized individual. I'm a very disciplined, but most importantly, I'm a very honest person with my partners. And obviously, my partners so well and so many of the team, we surround ourselves with amazing, amazing people. And like our staff that works for us, as I always say, my girls, especially that help with like the calendar and like shuttling me all over, the world at this point. We make sure that, one, we're very upfront. I think one of the biggest challenges for me was having to be very honest about dealing with a lot of health issues while we were really at the height of our expansion. And the only way that I was going to be able to deal with that was if I essentially asked for help, which maybe was not a great skill set of mine beforehand, but I had to really put my pride aside and say to not only my partners, but my team, these are things that I'm struggling with, and this is when I'm struggling with, and this is how I need help. And like really asking for help, which again, I've never been really great with, but I've really like realized, one of the things when I kind of hit a lot of health issues and burnout from all the expansion, I went to this place called the Golden Door, and John and Fred actually gave it to me as a holiday gift. An amazing, amazing gift, and it was 5 or 6 days without any internet, without any phone, and it really was to like rehabilitate me and like recharge me. And it was such a great lesson to me because I was probably a bit of a micromanager before, and I remember powering on like so vividly, like my laptop, my iPhone, my iPad. And here I thought like, oh my gosh, there's going to be all these things that fell through the crack, this, that, whatever. And it was the greatest exercise for me to realize that like we built this great team, we have such great people, and I've got to let them continue to take space and grow and trust them, because not one thing slipped the entire week. And it was a reminder to me that, okay, yes, in my mind, maybe would a few of these things be done better if I was micromanage them? Yes, you could probably argue that. But most importantly, everything was done. And I think that was a big, from like an entrepreneur, like, leadership role, was a big step in the right direction, because it was like, wait a second, like these people have got me and these are my people. And I need to make sure that I'm really invested in them growing, them taking up more space, them feeling fulfilled, instead of like micromanaging the process, because I'm better served in other capacities. So I always like say like it's one thing to say that like you trust your team and this, that, whatever, and it's another to really challenge that and see if the system breaks or if you built it correctly, and then you can kind of keep building from there. And that was probably about 4 years ago, almost actually to the week, because it was right before we launched Miami, and it was the only time I could like take enough downtime to really feel comfortable kind of stepping away from everything. But, I had to really put myself out there and ask for help. And most importantly, I think by doing that, I was able to grow a lot as a leader.
There is no teaching that
No.
to relinquish ego and be able to self-evaluate and ask for help. It's a very difficult thing for a lot of people to do, and it's obviously very honorable. And look, it worked, right? And
Yeah,
we're in
it
a
was a big
world where,
growing. Yeah.
yeah, we're in a world where whatever works, and you use it to get better and stronger. The expansion of the team from New York to Miami to LA to Texas. Are there any other markets that are ready to go? Number one, and number two, trend setting is obviously difficult when you're in the mix, right? How to be forward facing and look to the future and use trends and technology
Hmm.
in a very, I want to say, a stale market, because a lot of things have grown technology wise in the last couple of years. But while you're growing and while you're busy and closing deals and dealing with problems and worrying about compliance, and it's not easy. So
No.
how do you deal with that, keeping trend setting and maintaining that competitive edge that you have, and still staying productive and focused at the same time?
I think that's where one of the many places where the agents are so critical to us. I always say like they're really like our eyes and ears. I stepped back from really running showings on my own, gosh, probably now like almost 4.5, 5 years ago. So they have became my eyes and ears. And I always say like all the great things that I have done for this industry and our team are really I'm so fortunate to get a little bit of the credit for, because what it is it's this agent in Florida telling me about this system. It's another one in California that said, "Oh, we've been working with this, but this is what's wrong with it." And then us working with Douglas Elliman to say, "Okay, let's beta test with this company XYZ product." And so I'm really able to kind of like cheat a lot of that because I have so much of like the best talent in this industry kind of whispering my ear their needs or the things they love or dislike about products. And then we're very fortunate with our relationship with Douglas Elliman to sometimes like custom create some of those pieces or to beta test, different pieces that are coming into the industry that we can really kind of put our mark and name on.
So is that the reason that it's Element, because they're pliable, because they're workable, because you guys have a long-standing relationship, and
Hmm.
I believe in them. Howard is an amazing man. He's accomplished amazing things. I do a ton of business with you guys, and as you know, I have a venture with Element in Florida, where
Hmm.
we're the choice strategic partner and title company. So is that why it's Element?
Like there's so many reasons it's Element, and you probably saw in the news. We just re-signed. I mean, I know they say it's a 5-year deal. I would say it's like our retirement deal, because here's the thing: is and obviously, there's nobody that keeps on with trends more than us. But I always say like the words trend is used for a reason, and I think it's also we don't want to be a trend. We want to be the tried and true, and it is very interesting some of these brokers breaking off and doing their own thing, but also too like they're not us in the sense of like maybe they're one market or two markets, maybe they're 10 people, maybe they're not the behemoth that we are in this industry. And I don't think there's another place that could really house what we are. We're 5 states, we're 13 markets, we're, as you said, we're 95 huge personalities. And most importantly, we're a new development machine. So, like, what Howard has built with his team really fits exactly what we're doing. And, my mentor, who was at Douglas Elliman, Horatio Ladon, who built out the Florida New Dev and the California New Dev, we kind of mirrored a bit of like what they did and the way that they expanded and rolled out these markets and the things that Kotler has done with expanding to Nevada and Texas. Like we actually aligned and went with them. So for us, it's like the power of the alignment with them is so huge. And then also too, to have a business mentor like Howard, like Dick Lampin, so many of the people that we have access to that I talk to sometimes on a daily basis is why I've been able to go from not being able to ride a subway and write a lease 12 years ago to now the position that I'm in. And we're very, very fortunate to have them as a partner, to have the new development arm. Susan's and her team are so amazing. So it's kind of like, yes, could we detach tonight and start up our own brokerage? Absolutely. But do we really want to rebuild things that they have built so well? And most importantly, it takes away from the things that John, Fred, and I are best suited to do, and that really is to be these super brokers, whether it's focused on big dollar resells, whether it's developments, recruiting other top agents, and then we're going to be running legal and PR and HR, and all of a sudden, like I have a as at work. Like that stuff doesn't sound fun to me. I can't imagine a day going by without Ken Haber, one of Howard's right hands that runs, legal, or Brian Cohen, who,
Yeah.
the COO for the development arm. Like to find a replacement and then pay them. I just don't think the numbers from the P&L really flesh out the way that people from like reading it are like, oh, well, this shiny split, or you would own all of it. I'm
Who
pretty
cares?
damn good with
Yeah.
numbers. It's really not that great. At the end of the day, once you go and have to like build all of that, but also too, I don't think most people in this industry, while I was never a great super broker, most super brokers are not great businessmen and women. And I think that's the problem is they're wearing too many hats. And, again, I have a lot of friends that have broken off and have done that model, and I wish them the best. And obviously I'm cheering them on. But I think if anybody knows what's going on in the market and how to do it from a business standpoint, it's us. And I do
Mhm.
think it says something that, we're staying at DE, and we do think that is the best model for success.
Yeah, I could, attribute that to 23 years at KB. People say, "Oh, why don't you do it on your own?"
Mhm.
Why would I? I
Yeah.
have the platform. I have the tried and true platform, and it works. And I'm very loyal to my team, just like you are. And
Mhm.
I believe that I work for them, like you believe, you work for them, and it's very a lot of similarities. So I'm going to wrap up with an important question. And I call you the Wizard of Oz because you just
I
make
like
things
that one.
happen. You just make things happen behind the scenes. I know you personally, and I know what you do. But a lot of people don't see you as much as they do,
Mhm.
obviously, Fred and John and what have you. So, I don't believe in the CEO woman card question, because I see you as a business mogul rather than a woman CEO. I don't think that you ever play that card either, because you work your ass off and blow people out of the water. Men, women, or different. But there's a lot of young women entrepreneurs that want to become CEOs, in a challenging market like real estate, for instance, or some other business. What's the best advice that you can give to younger, aspiring entrepreneurs that have
Mhm.
high aspirations and goals to reach levels that you have? Maybe not in the time frame that you did, because that's not doable for
I'm
99% of
not
the
as
world.
young as people think that I am, unfortunately. But I think the big thing is and I grew up in Kentucky, and I grew up not only in Kentucky but in a very, very small town in Kentucky. So the way that my father and my mother, but really my father raised me was that, and I think this is the mindset that I still lead with, but there wasn't, and he wanted a boy so bad, and he got two very girly girls. And but he really instilled in me that there's no reason that I can't do everything that he was doing as a businessman, but also everything that my mother was doing as a homemaker and a loving wife, and, very involved in charities. And I always took that like maybe a little too much to heart, but it was always like, okay, well, this person is just a guy and I'm a guy and a girl. Like I'm the full package. And, I think it's very much like the mindset of that is to going into any room. And, I think so many women think, well, I'm the only woman here. And I think of that as like my biggest advantage card. And I think it's going in with kind of like flipping the script. And I think that real estate, whether it's men, or excuse me, whether it's gay men or women, I really think we have the advantage card in it. And I think, you've got to go in and you've got to play your card. And I think for women, it's really about like taking ownership of that and really like harnessing that power and really showing people that, you will put the work in. And the thing that I think at the end of the day, John, Fred, and I think is our superpower is really no one can outwork us. And again, as I was saying, you and I are up on emails at 4:30 in the morning. We're at, events, talking shop. You've got to put the work in. And no matter where you are, and we're very fortunate to be at the top, we're still working harder than anyone else. And anyone that thinks again that you can kind of cheat the system, there's shortcuts, we're always going to beat hands down, because while they're busy thinking about, how they're going to shortcut this to this, we're going to put the work in and be 10 miles ahead of them.
With that being said, I always say, and I'll end with this, is, it's aspiring individuals with hardworking goals that get to be number one. But it's the people with consistency and
Yeah.
determination and persistence that stay at number one.
Absolutely.
That's the hardest thing. And especially when you're looking in the rearview mirror and everybody's got a knife, a gun, and a sword trying to chop you down, and you just keep climbing the mountain.
And I also think as a woman too, I think, hopefully people would still say this about me. Like, I am still a sweetheart. I am a shrewd negotiator, but I am a sweetheart. And there's no one in this industry that isn't at the end of the day rooting for me. And I'm never going to give someone a reason not to. And I think that we forget sometimes how much, especially in real estate, we need each other. And I think, a lot of the problems that pop up are solved by relationships that I garnered 12 years ago, when I was, instead of worried about managing up, which I am great at, I was really worried, really thinking about like managing down in my career. So I can call anyone in this industry and have a great relationship with them. And most importantly, really have a mutual respect for, because I've always treated everyone with respect. Because I think we all have to remember, if somebody would have counted me out 12 years ago, and been disrespectful, like it's a pretty bad position for them to be in now, needing me in this industry. So you never know who someone's going to end up to be. So you've got to treat everyone the right way. And I think that kind of, a little bit of that all kind of fleshes itself out. If you're just a good, honest, sweet person, that doesn't mean that you're not an incredibly shrewd negotiator or that you're not feared or respected. It just means that you also just have like a common courtesy for human decency, which unfortunately, sometimes is a bit of an issue in all industries today.
I agree 1,000%. And you know what? Relationships are everything, and your network is everything. With that being said, Julia, once again, I'll see you soon. It was a pleasure as always. I always appreciate your time. I always learn from you, and
Same to you.
love your energy, and enjoy emailing someone else that's hardworking at 4:30 a.m. So I'll see you soon. Thanks again.
Perfect.
And we'll be in touch. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Julia Spillman, CEO of Eklund Gomes at Eklund. Have a great day, everyone.
I'm show the whole world who I am. Boom. Major look, huh? Yeah, this one is for the books. All these chances I took still. I move straight on these rooks now. Hold me up or hold me down. Have my back or hold my crown. Either you with me or not, but you better give all you got. Boom.